I now call to order the May 26, 2026 Board of Trustee meeting, the time being 6:32. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please proceed with the roll call?
Trustee Blackstone,
Present.
Trustee Moore,
Present.
Trustee Barrett,
Here.
Trustee Moyer,
Here.
Trustee Cannon,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Daly.
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Are there any amendments to the agenda this evening? Are there any conflicts of interest on the agenda? All right, for the first portion of the meeting, we have community participation. The first item I want to go over, and this is very important to the town, is the proclamation regarding National Public Works Week. National Public Works Week, rooted in service, powered by community. Public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the town of Wellington. And these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And it is the public interest for all citizens, civic leaders, and children of town of Wellington to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And the year 2026 marks the 66th National Annual Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Be it now, therefore, do hereby designate the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Wellington to be affixed this 26th day of May 2026. And if we could have Nathan Ewert, please, Deputy Public Works Director, here to accept the proclamation, and I'd like for us all to take a photo if we could. Thanks.
How big? So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's get everybody out.
We're getting everybody out. We're kind of closing down the screen a little bit.
Come on in.
Come on.
How fitting on the first day of the Cleveland project.
I know,
It's great timing. Are we all in here?
There we go. All
Closer.
right. Are
Okay.
we ready?
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, everybody.
Happy Public Works Week. You gotta watch out.
Sorry.
I'm not used to like actually having control over my chair. Sorry.
On to public comments. Now is the time for public comment. Members of the public who wish to comment on non-agenda items, please sign in on the sheet behind the podium and state your name clearly into the microphone. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to provide comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to our presentation. The first one we have, or the only presentation tonight, is update on the progress of the Transportation and Mobility Plan. And our presentation this evening will be by Cody Bird, Planning Director, and Brittany Lenoir, Planner 3. Welcome.
Evening, Mayor and Board. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Cody Bird, Planning Director. With me, Miss Brittany Lenoir. We're really excited to be undertaking the town's first ever transportation and mobility plan. It's a big step for a growing community. And what we'd like to do tonight is share with you some of the highlights of what has happened to date, where we're headed, and what some of the key themes that we're identifying are. So as I mentioned, this is the town's first ever transportation and mobility plan. This plan document is intended to guide transportation infrastructure decisions for a period of 20-25 years into the future. Its focus is on safety and connectivity, as well as mobility for all users. We recognize that Wellington's historic pattern has been primarily automobile-oriented development or modes of transportation, but as we see population increasing and more diverse needs, bicycles, pedestrian, ADA accessibility, all those come into play. And as the town continues to grow, transit and other options may need to be considered as well. So it's a big plan. We know that Wellington's transportation needs are forever growing and evolving. What this update tonight does not do is identify a list of projects. I know everyone wants to know, is my project that's important to me on this list? And we will get there, I promise you, but it won't be tonight. That process is still coming. What we will focus on is how we make our streets safer, how we improve sidewalks and trails for better connectivity for bikes and pedestrians, regional mobility connections, and responsible long-term growth in our transportation network. So in this plan document, what we're including is a full long-range transportation framework that aligns with our comprehensive plan goals, our PROST, and other master plans for the community to make sure that there's alignment there, that we're not recommending a new road somewhere where there's not supported by other land uses and other connections. We will develop a prioritized list of infrastructure improvement needs, and that'll be prioritized based on need, funding, timelines, et cetera, to create that list. And of course, we're focusing on all modes, so we need to capture all of that. We've of course acknowledged the Board of Trustees strategic plan for continuing to support our infrastructure, our street networks, and economic vibrancy in that component as well. The plan also will include an impact fee nexus study. That's taking that prioritized project list, what are the current commitments for transportation funding, and making sure that we can afford to build all the things that we say we need to build, and or timing when we should build those based on some threshold. The fee nexus study will help us update our impact fees so that when new growth comes in, we're collecting the appropriate amount of one-time fees from those projects to ensure we have funding for future infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. And this plan is also going to update our street design guidelines and standards. So the guidelines are kind of the planner's view of what is this corridor road network supposed to look like, what do we need to have included in it, and then the standards are the technical engineering drawings and details that specify how to build what we've envisioned for those corridors. So this is a big project. We're happy to be doing it, and we're going to really have a full set of planning document that supports all of our transportation needs and decisions.
Good evening. So a big component of this plan is the community. The community is the foundation of the plan. That is why we are doing this. And so as a part of the plan development, we're doing extensive public engagement. So during this phase one, this initial phase, there were multiple engagement opportunities, such as presenting at our budget bonanza in October, a mingle on Main in November, And we also met with seniors at the Senior Center in January. So we did a lot of in-person engagement. We also did social media posts and press releases and mailers in the mail, trying to capture as many people as we could in the community. So we also did Around the Well, our podcast. So our consultant at FHU and Cody did a podcast, if you guys want to take a listen to that. As part of the phase 1 engagement, one of the big activities that we did was a interactive map. You'll see that on the top right of the slide here. And this map allowed you to put a pin on certain locations in town, and there are different categories that you could choose from, whether it's a safety concern, a walking biking challenge, a connectivity issue, or a good example. And so because of this public engagement that we did and tried to reach as many people as we did get a good result from that map, about 224 map pins, so individual pins on the map, and then 488 upvotes and downvotes for those existing map pins, and 729 views. And as a result of that public engagement, there were a few themes that rose to the top. As you can see on this slide, safer streets for people of all ages and abilities was the most requested theme. Second being easier walking and biking connections, and then better routes to schools, parks, and downtowns. A full phase 1 engagement summary is included on the project website if you wanted to dig deep into that, but this is just a general zoom out on the results of that phase 1 engagement.
So when we heard from the community was that safety was a high priority, and we also have to corroborate what we hear from the community with a data-driven analysis. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the technical findings. I'm not going to get into the details and the meat of that. The full report has a lot of that, and I'm happy to answer questions, but this is just intended to give you that overview and the takeaways. So when we look at the data, and I say we, FHU, Felsberg, Holt, and Olevig is our consultant that's done a lot of the technical analysis for us, and staff's been involved. But this has been primarily driven by a very technical model that FHU has put together. So when we look at the safety analysis, what we're seeing are some key themes. We see that crashes are increasing over time. More users on the roadway, more vehicles results in more safety-related accidents. We're also seeing an increase in the number of injury and severe injury crashes. Now, a caveat, a lot of the data that you're seeing here is defined by the town's GMA, our growth management area, and I-25 traverses through our growth management area. So you can see on the map, a lot of those pinpoints for crashes and accidents are along I-25. And that, while that's a state patrol concern, it is still in our GMA. So we have evaluated that information in this data set. The bar chart on the right here in the middle of the page shows within the town boundaries. So you see a similar pattern. Crashes and accidents increase over time. There are still more severe or injury and severe injury crashes in the town limits as well, which is expected. So that's the safety, which is clearly important to our residents as well, and the data supports that is a high concern. When we say travel demand modeling, this is a very complex mathematical model based on geography, land uses, population, jobs, commuting patterns. There's a lot of variables and inputs, and I won't bore you with those details. But all those are input into this model, and it looks at what's existing, which is what you see the map on the left. Existing ADT is average daily traffic. So you see the corridors that are experiencing the highest volumes of vehicles per day. The model then forecasts if the pattern continues and population continues to grow, jobs continue to grow, traffic continues to grow. The chart or the map on the right, the 2050 forecast, is what you would see those road segments and intersections that would be more congested, carry more vehicles per day, more likely to need corridor expansion, intersection, or geometry improvements to address that higher volume. So what this modeling effort tells us is we're likely to see a vehicle increase of about double within the plan horizon by 2050. And that's consistent with our growth projections for 2050. As population doubles, so will traffic. What this series of maps also identifies are those congestion areas, connectivity gaps. We do have some pretty significant gaps in the road networks between not only community destinations, but between Wellington and Fort Collins and other communities in the Front Range. What we typically see with those congestion intersections is an increase in safety concerns. So this map is an indicator of that, which then results in what's our infrastructure need. And that'll be the prioritized project list that we'll be working on later in this project. So again, I won't get into the details on these maps, but we analyze the pedestrian mode network. So existing sidewalks, that's the map on the left. What we've seen is we have a pretty good sidewalk connection network in our newer neighborhoods, which standards change, required sidewalks on both sides of the street. Not an unexpected result. Also not unexpected, we find that we have more sidewalk gaps and gaps between destinations in our older part of town that didn't have the standards that we have today. So not telling us things that we didn't already suspect, but we have mapped it. We have much more granular data. I know you can't read it well at this scale, but the interactive maps and zoomable maps, you can really see block by block where the gaps are. And the map on the right, the pedestrian demand, what this map is indicating is that it's a heat map that's created based on what are the primary drivers of pedestrian trip destinations, schools, grocery stores, places of employment, parks. These are the key destinations within the community. And so the heat map shows those lighter colors are very high areas of pedestrian demand, meaning that's where residents are trying to get, and that's where, or get to, or get between destinations. So we see some really prevalent themes there around needing better connections in the older parts of town where some of those network gaps exist. I'm not sure where to point to get it to advance. Perfect, thank you. So similar to pedestrian modes, we look at bicycle network mode. When we say mode, that's the means of travel. Not a dissimilar result when we analyze bicycle movements. Our existing network, we have very limited bicycle infrastructure. We have a little bit of on-street, we have a little bit of off-street, so like a separated trail. A lot of the inputs and outputs on bicycle mode has been coordinated with the Prost master plan. I know that Ms. Lenoir attended the Prost meeting here recently and discussed a lot of these similar themes and was seeking that alignment. What does the Prost master plan say for trail connectivity? That's also a big component of the bicycle off-street network. So making sure that these plans are working together and not proposing at cross purposes to each other. The other thing that we analyze on the transportation side is bicycle level of traffic stress, or LTS, level of traffic stress. What the models and the studies tell us is that when you're on a bicycle and you're experiencing different traffic related instances on your ride, more vehicles equals a higher level of stress. Higher speeds is a higher level of stress. Lack of pavement markings, like no bicycle lane, leads to a higher level of stress. And what happens then is your bicyclists, where they may have a direct route, they're choosing alternative routes, which puts bicycles in places where vehicles don't expect them, which can result in additional traffic accidents or safety precautionary needs. So we are looking at that level of traffic stress over time is going to continue to exacerbate as we add more vehicles to the road network and more bicycle users as well. So what we're identifying are some of the key corridors that connect primary destinations, make those community destination connections, and where the needs are going to be in the long run to help us prioritize where and when we should be looking at on-street or off-street bicycle networks, depending on the corridor and what the needs are. So when we look at the information that Ms. Lenoir shared regarding the public engagement feedback and the data feedback that we've done through the technical analysis, what we see are quite a bit of those themes that are in alignment. This slide on the bottom right one, you can't quite see with the voice to text, but it's maintenance was a high priority for the community. So what we see is a lot of these are the same list. They're just in different order based on data and community feedback. But the themes of safety are prevalent. The growth and the need to build the right products and maintain those products are consistent. Automobile continues to be the primary mode of transportation with increasing needs for bikes and pedestrians. So a lot of the key takeaways are supported by the community and the residents, and the data supports it as well, which at the end of the day is going to really help us dial in a good prioritized project list.
And so based off everything that the data told us and what our community told us, we did establish a draft vision, guiding principles, and plan goals. These were developed with an interdepartmental team with other town departments. We've also presented this to the Planning Commission as a study session and also to the Prost Advisory Board. I won't bore you and read all of them, but I'll read the draft vision and you guys can read the rest. So Wellington is a place where people travel safely and comfortably throughout the community into regional destinations, regardless of whether they walk, bike, drive, or use transit. Community members of all ages and abilities feel connected to neighborhoods, daily destinations, and local businesses. As the community grows, the transportation system grows with it in a way that prioritizes responsible and coordinated development. And so going on to those goals, oh, I'm sorry. While we were developing these, we did find that we were really missing people first. And so initially it was just a draft vision and goals. And we felt we needed to put this guiding principle in here. And if you read it, it does prioritize the experiences of people. That was something we want to keep on the forefront. Within the transportation network, transportation doesn't just mean vehicles, but it's an overall well-balanced connected system. So no matter how you choose to move within the community, you feel safe, it is accessible, and there is a quality of life that's maintained within that system. So it's very important through our development with our team on that guiding principle. So going on to those goals, you'll see a lot of overlap with what the data told us and our community told us. So those plan goals focus, mind you, these aren't in any particular order of prioritization, but the plan goals focus on connectivity, safety, economic development, and also stewardship, regional access, and responsible growth. And these were important goals that we will build upon in our next steps of engagement. We heard this from the community to set a foundation for the plan, but now in our next phase of engagement, we'll look at prioritizing these goals and building out that framework for the plan. So I just wanted to pause here and get your guys' feedback on that draft vision, guiding principle, and goals.
All right, we'll go around the room. Let's start with Trustee Cannon.
I think it looks great. I appreciate everything you've done. I'm fully supportive.
Kendra, oh, sorry, Trustee.
I think it's fantastic. I really love how it encompasses all modes of transportation. Like you pointed out, that is essential, especially when we have, a brand new high school in town. You're going to have younger people trying to get their own way to school. If it's not just a bus route, it's going to be, bicycles, pedestrian. So just identifying, all of those extra needs is fantastic. And I really appreciate it.
Trustee Blackstone.
Yeah. First, yeah, thank you guys for really for reaching out to so many of the residents. I think that's key and kind of aligns with what I think all of us are trying to do right now. And I also love the communication with Prost, talking with them and getting that connectivity between the biking trails and now kind of more residential or these roads just makes a ton of sense. So love to hear that's like being kind of forward as far as the information. I had uh, two kind of comments, one question. I wanted to say some of that data was not surprising as far as the like areas of concern, specifically that the part of the road that goes along the railroad between the high school and Main Street, like with no sidewalk, especially with the high school being there and like skateboarders and stuff. Like I just, and I live in that neighborhood, so coming down that road, if we were coming in for like the 4th of July parade when it was, that's it's just obvious. And then I-25, again, it's very obvious. If you have people like trying to walk over that, that's something we need to look at. The question I had was, you showed that there was like gonna be, or there's a kind of a proposed increase on like Elk Canyon Road for that 2050. I was just curious why that would be. What's up there?
Yeah, so Owl Canyon Road is County Road 70. It's in our growth management area, or at least a portion of that road segment. And then there's portions in unincorporated Larimer County. That corridor has been identified in a number of different studies as serving multiple needs. The new Larimer County landfill north of town is going to carry a higher volume of waste vehicles to it. A lot of freight routes that traverse off of I-25 looking to get to destinations like LaPorte and North Fort Collins end up taking that and then catching 287 instead of navigating the traffic signals on Mulberry and elsewhere. So it's a primary freight route. And depending on some of the changes that happen around Glade Reservoir, NISP, it could carry a higher level of volume with rerouting of 287 and other possible future scenarios. But it is identified in the county planning documents as a major corridor for vehicle traffic
Interesting.
for a variety of reasons.
Cool. Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And you reminded me about the landfill. So that makes a lot of sense. Other than that, those were just, again, kind of a couple comments and my one question. Otherwise, yeah, I support the overall vision, and I think you guys are hitting it on the head.
Thank you, Trustee Moore.
Thank you. Fully in support. I love it. I guess my only comment would be I'm really excited to see how the data that you guys have put together leads to the priority of what will be done first or second or third, like you said. But that will come in time. And in the meantime, excited to see that this is something that's in the forefront of our list of things to do. Thank you.
Trustee Moyer.
Hello there. So I just want to say, first of all, a big thank you to you, Brittany, for presenting to us last time and this time. You've done an excellent job, and I want to just commend you for that. I mean, I think we're a friendly board, but you never know. And so thank you for being so open with us. Director Byrd, we have had the opportunity to work together through Safe Routes to School, and I think this has a lot to do with all of the conversations that we've had over the last several years. I know that we have gaps, and I think that you've identified those in this plan, and we have our action plan from the state that we can also fall back on. I have full confidence in you that you will work to make sure that we have the utmost connectivity throughout our community, and that our students, families are the safest that they can be as they're trying to move about town. So I just, again, want to say hallelujah to the town of Wellington for all of the planning that we're getting in place. Thank you. Oh my gosh, so amazing for the future. And thank you to you, sir, because I know that you live, breathe, and I would say sleep, but you don't sleep all of this, right? So just thank you to you for caring so much and all of your team for making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Moore.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any questions tonight, and just want to say thank you, Mr. Bird and Ms. Lenoir, for getting this together, and our partners at FHU for crunching the data here. I'm just going to say the same thing that Trustee Moore said. I was super excited to see where this goes as far as our townwide projects and strategies list, and that sounds like that's the next step. So I'm looking forward to it. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just curious, is there going to be a second round of like resident questions or feedback? And if so, is there just a general way that so that anybody listening or anybody that's interested in giving that feedback can kind of look forward to where that would be happening?
Absolutely. And I appreciate the question, Trustee Blackstone. I have a couple more slides here and I'll get to exactly that and we'll wrap it up with that. So thank you.
Great. Thanks. So I, as kind of representing Prost and as the liaison to Prost, I do have to just acknowledge their major interests that they've been working on for years, which is acknowledged so far in your plan. So I appreciate that very much. And I know you guys are working close to them, but always just to drop a couple opportunities for hints as to what they are looking for. It's trail connectivity regionally. That's been something that has been as a prime need for over decades, possibly as a need to connect us to Fort Collins, to continue to connect us maybe to Soapstone, to make us a stop along a regional trail. We've been hearing a lot of amazing things about regional trails right now, Greeley all the way to LaPorte, for example, and that's an amazing initiative. It would be lovely if we could be part of something like that too. So they have always advocated for that. So I'm going to drop that in there. Again, that's been acknowledged multiple times already through this, but I just want to give that a little extra support. Also through the Prost master plan, they acknowledge the need for potentially a pedestrian walkway at Jefferson, or I think Jefferson is kind of where they indicated it. So it shows similar trends looking at your demand models for the future as well. And then as one of the major goals of connectivity is talking about east side versus west side. I know again that that's been considered and is part of this project so far and has already been seen from public comment. But just wanted to reiterate that one as much as possible, just to make sure that the community feels whole and that everybody feel like they belong. It's all of one Wellington and be proud of here. I'm almost done, just a second. Yeah. And then I am excited about all the goals and I stand behind them. The ones that mean the most to me are the connectivity, being regional, and then of course all the safety aspects, not to mention all the other required things that involve maintenance and so on. So I think that they're all super solid goals. Those are the ones that just truly reach out to me. Before we take any additional comments, I do need to take yes, can live with it, no on to the question asked before us. Does the board support the draft vision, guiding principle, and goals to guide the next phases of the transportation mobility plans? I heard that pretty good consensus, but I stand behind them all. And I really appreciate you adding the principles because I agree that the improving the quality of life, improving the way that people feel about how they live and where they live is important. And I think that's captured by the principles. So those are my comments. Trustee Moyer, do you have another one?
I do. As Safe Routes to School, I was reached out to by the safety and security team there, the transportation team, to look at a particular intersection for Rice. And so I just want to say in this meeting that the public opportunity for us to partner with PSD to improve our school intersections is there. And I will absolutely move that on to you, Cody, to do with as you choose. And then also looking at Lake Eyestone. I don't want to lose focus of that. Thanks.
And I know we're going to talk about more of what's to come, but I guess I just want to put focus on the potentially finding the projects that are deemed like easy wins, right? So if it involves striping that makes something safer, that we have the capability of doing within Wellington, Those are the kind of things that I definitely would want to prioritize to make sure we could do the most with the least as soon as possible. Not to mention to be pursuing these very significant projects for the future too, that I know will take a lot of money and a lot of time. So that's the only other piece, but I'll let you take it away from here.
Excellent. Well, board, thank you very much for the feedback. We have done a lot of work, but we know there's more to do. Appreciate the heads up on coordination with Poudre School District on some priority intersections around our elementary schools. Definitely on the radar. We'll reach out to PSD to coordinate. And thank you, Mayor Daley, for your feedback as well. I think you made a great point about some of the prioritization. It's not a completely numeric, like this has to happen before that. Some projects do have a precursor before you can get to the full, but where there are opportunities for quick wins, low cost solutions to make a meaningful impact, we will consider all of those factors in the overall prioritization.
Wonderful.
What you'll likely see are some long-term, short-term type of projects, and short-term is usually lower funding asks or needs, and those usually elevate a little sooner. So
Perfect.
well said, and we will definitely be on top of those things. So wrong way, going back to Trustee Blackstone's earlier question, some things you can look forward to. We are nearly complete with the technical analysis where we crunched the numbers and did the data. We're going to be sharing that draft technical memo with the public. We will be opening up our phase 2 public engagement, which is basically, this is what we heard. We've done the data crunch. Now, are we getting what you told us? We want to make sure that we've got it right. So it's kind of a validating piece to make sure the public still says, yep, this is what we wanted. We're on the right track. We're also working on an evaluation of key corridors and intersections. We know that every roadway is important, but we know that others have different impacts to our community. We are identifying 5 or 6 corridors that need special study. Highway 1 is logically one of those corridors that needs evaluation. Jefferson Avenue is another one that may need evaluation based on its east-west connectivity, access across the highway, whether it's all modes or bike and pedestrian. So we've identified some of these corridors, and we're going to evaluate what are those specific needs. If there are specific intersections that need further study, we'll be doing that piece as well. As I mentioned early on, we were working through the street design guidelines and standards. We'll be looking at that through the corridor lens as well as town-wide lens for all road networks. And then we'll be working on that prioritized town-wide projects list. So this last couple slides here, the bullets where the stars are kind of have a darkened background, that's what we've done. We started this last fall, and we've made it through public engagement and the technical analysis. Our next stage is the community input for the draft vision and goals, the technical memorandums, and we'll reopen that website for that phase 2 public engagement. So there will be an opportunity there for the public to comment, follow along, and see what progress we're making. Later this fall, we'll be bringing a draft plan through Planning Commission, Prost, Board of Trustees, that same process to make sure that we're getting this plan dialed in. And then hopefully by fall, we'll be presenting the final plan. During that draft plan review, we'll probably be forecasting our budget discussions with the Board of Trustees. We anticipate having the impact fee nexus study completed in order to inform budgetary decisions for 2027 and beyond on traffic. So that's where we've been and where we're headed. There will be more engagement opportunities, and we'll be putting that information out to the public here shortly. And then to wrap things up, you mind if I'll just kind of wrap this up. This is the website link that we used for the phase 1 public engagement. It's on a platform called My Social Pinpoint. It's where the interactive map lived. It's where residents could drop the pins and drop the comments. That will still be the project website moving forward. This slide is already out of date because we've since updated it with this next stage of content. So if you follow that link, you'll see the latest and greatest and more to come very shortly as we roll out those draft documents and seek the public engagement. So if there's any further questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, we appreciate the board giving us the time tonight to share these updates. Oh, there we go. It's already on the website. You can see the phase 1 engagement summary and the the current and future conditions analysis.
This is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, board.
Thanks. Consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the title of the items on the consent agenda?
April 28th, 2026 Board of Trustees meeting minutes and May 12th, 2026 Board of Trustees meeting minutes.
Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Moore?
Here. Yes.
Yes. Trustee Blackstone?
Yes.
Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Barrett?
Yes.
Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Mason? Mayor Daley?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. On to action items. The clerk please read the title of E1.
Ordinance number 05-2026, an ordinance amending chapter 10 of the Wellington Municipal Code concerning motorbikes, motorized skateboards, and electric vehicles.
Fantastic. Sergeant Russell Downing, Larimer County Sheriff's Office will present this ordinance. I didn't
Good
recognize
evening,
you,
Mayor.
to be completely honest. I was
Sorry.
going to say, oh, I don't think you showed up tonight. That's so funny.
I'm on light duty and not allowed to wear my uniform.
Okay.
This is what you get tonight.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you. So I'm here to present our proposed modification of Wellington Ordinance 10-11-30, which addresses motorbikes and motorized skateboards. As I'm sure you all are very aware, with the increase of electric vehicles, we've had a drastic increase of electric motorbikes in town, and this has caused some issues. The increase in popularity and the lack of guidance from the state of Colorado as far as statute goes has created challenges for municipalities across the state, as well as law enforcement agencies and how we address these problems. So there's been a lot of confusion and inconsistency, both on the part of owners and operators and the law enforcement agencies. I've been working with Ms. Garcia and the town staff to try to address some of these shortfalls in statute and in our current ordinance, to try to figure out how we can kind of consolidate what our plan is moving forward and how to manage the roadways. That proposed ordinance gives better guidance and better guidelines on how to operate such vehicles within the town, and that's what's before you tonight for your consideration. In an attempt to clarify our intent, those guidelines of operation include things like provision of headlights and taillights after dark, if they're operated on the roadway, to operate within the rules of the road, if they're operated on the sidewalk, to operate safely for pedestrians, and if the operators are under 18, they're required to wear a helmet. Additionally, we've added at the 11th hour an addendum, which I believe you all have, which addresses.
It was just sent, Mayor Pro Tem Mason had made the request, and so he has the information, and so does the mayor.
I will, I'll forward it to the board right now, but when we get to that part, we can discuss it, so.
My apologies. So additionally, it's been addressed that there's a prohibition of those electric motorbikes in parks and open spaces, in landscaped and grassy areas, and as well as in detention and retention pond areas and some others. This will help kind of maintain the property standards of HOAs and the town, and help with those drainage areas to prevent them from being damaged or destroyed. That is it in brief. In closing, many other municipalities have chosen an outright ban of electric motorbikes. What we're proposing here is a more conservative approach to legislation, and leaning on the responsibility of riders to ride in a manner that's safe, and that helps to preserve the safety of both the community and the property. My challenge to those writers is this, that the writing needs to be done with courtesy and with respect and with safety, because this issue could be revisited at any time. And I know the board could always choose to go with an outright ban. So my challenge to writers is to take this opportunity and exhibit some responsibility here.
Thank
Any
you so
questions
much.
from the-
Yeah, so right now we'll do questions only. These are only questions for understanding of the resolution before you. We will talk more and deliberate on our opinions on it after we've had an opportunity to hear from the public. Okay, so let's start with Trustee Moyer.
Hey there. I live in a hot spot, and so I'm just questioning, after doing some research about what other municipalities around us are doing, why there's not a speed limit set or restrictions to where and when people can ride. I understand the wattage. Well, forgive me, I don't understand the wattage, but my husband does. And so I was asking him, what about this is not right? And to me, was the maximum of our minimum actually for the wattage, because we're allowing basically children to drive actual vehicles on the roads. We say wear a helmet, but we all know they don't necessarily wear a helmet. And we're not licensing them necessarily to drive these lower wattage scooters on our roadways. So my whole feeling around this, and trust me, I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they all want to ride them all the time. But like, at what point do we say, this is why we instated a driver's license at 16 years old? And this is why we have these restrictions in place, and our community parks and sidewalks are for pedestrians and people that want to play with their children and not to have to dodge your electric or gas vehicles.
Trustee Moyer, I'm gonna just for headline purposes, is the question related to, we'll talk more about deliberation, but is there a question regarding speed limit for vehicles?
It's speed limit and age limit, I think.
Speed
for me.
limit and
Yep.
age limit.
Headlining, yes.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Was there any consideration in this ordinance regarding specific
And location.
speed limits? Okay.
So
Related to
speed limits
height?
are kind of a tricky issue, especially with these vehicles.
Mhm.
The vast majority of them don't have a speedometer.
Right.
And so enforcement of that is virtually impossible. As far as lawful enforcement of
I don't
that.
think
Now we can say, I know you're going faster than X number of miles an hour. Sometimes that's upheld in court, sometimes it's not. So the default that we fall into in that is following the rules of the road and operating safely on sidewalks, if they're operating on sidewalks.
Okay. And then I think some of the other questions regarding location, actually, Mayor Pro Tem, why don't you go ahead and go first and maybe introduce or ask questions about those additional features that you were concerned about?
Sure. Sergeant Downing, appreciate you presenting on this tonight. I don't have any specific questions regarding the ordinance as written, but I just wanted to present to the board a potential amendment when we get to that point. So I think there are, in the executive summary, there are a number of bullet points which I thought were very well addressed, such as unsafe interactions with pedestrians on sidewalks, operation by minors without protective equipment, confusion regarding whether certain electric vehicles are legally permitted, noise and nuisance concerns related to gas-powered vehicles. I felt like the ordinance adequately addressed those, but I didn't feel like it adequately addressed the operation of motor vehicles on grass common areas and retention ponds. So the language that we had kind of discussed with both the town attorney, Ms. Garcia, Director of Public Works, Bob Gowing, as well as Parks and Rec Director, Billy Cootsey. And the proposed language I'd like to see in the ordinance tonight is as follows. The operation of electric-powered motorbikes, mini bikes, toy vehicles, electric scooters, and similar battery-powered personal mobility devices shall be permitted only on public streets, sidewalks, crosswalks, paved multi-use paths, and in other areas specifically designated by the town for such use unless otherwise prohibited by law. Operation of such devices is prohibited in parks, open space, landscaped, or grassed areas, unpaved or soft surface trails, detention or retention ponds, drainage facilities, drainage easements, and any other area not specifically designated for motorized use. The section shall not apply to authorized governmental operations, emergency response personnel, contractors acting within the scope of authorized work, or the lawful use of maintenance, landscaping, agricultural, or utility equipment.
And Sergeant Downing, that's language that you've heard already and you're in
Yes,
favor
ma'am.
of? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, Trustee Barrett,
I don't have any questions.
Trustee Cannon,
Well, I had a similar concern about not addressing the e-bikes and so forth on grassy areas in our public parks because of the maintenance involved with that and tearing up the landscape. But I do appreciate Trustee Mason with this recommendation. I think that covers my concern.
fantastic. Trustee Barrett,
I did have a thought occur to me. What can we do to address people who might be modifying their vehicles? If they are compliant with these definitions, but if they were to modify them so that they would go over certain speeds and stuff, how would we be able to address that issue?
Yeah, that's very difficult to address. And I'll tell you that the closest thing that I can get to is that as written in the ordinance, they have to have a placard on the vehicle and it has to be inspectable.
Okay.
But as far as modifications to a vehicle, that's going to be very, very difficult for us to try to even ascertain, much
Yeah.
less enforce.
Okay.
Trustee Blackstone. Okay, one moment, sorry. Trustee Blackstone.
Hey, thanks for putting this together. Specifically, thanks for moving quickly on this because it is something that we've had folks come and talk to us about, and I've seen it. My main question is about kind of the, if this ordinance, if we pass the ordinance, and I want to say it takes effect 30 days or so after we pass it. Really, this is again for the residents. How do you expect to go about like violations? Specifically, like, is the goal to have kind of like warnings first, educations first, or just are we going to start giving citations? And then kind of off of that, who are those citations going to? And again, I just want parents of these folks to kind of be prepared. Like, this is what we're doing. Can they, can you kind of just touch on that as far as your strategy?
Absolutely. So our first inclination is always warnings and education, especially with kids. We don't like getting kids in court any more than they need to be. We typically try to give a first warning. If we know we've got repeated offenders, then we'll start citing. We've worked with the court, with the municipal court, and the judge has established a fee for that. When we give a juvenile a ticket, we require their parents to come. And usually when we give a juvenile a ticket for an electric motorbike violation, we have their parent come and pick up the bike because at that point we don't want them riding again. Now that falls on parental responsibility, right? And that's where we kind of turn things over to the parent and say, look, this is the ticket, this is the fee. We know that you as a parent are probably going to end up saddled with this. It's also our request that you make sure that your child is operating responsibly and within your guidelines as well as within ours. So there are steps that we go to try to make sure that things are handled as appropriately as we can, without involving litigation. But there are times when that's necessary.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And again, this is more for folks. Again, I keep referencing folks listening. And I just want them to get that notice out that this is, something that they need to be aware of. If you want to have your kids do, which I fully support. Love seeing the kids riding around personally. I was one of those kids with a little gas-powered scooter in my day. But I just, want to get that. That's what you need to be prepared for. If you're a parent, that's getting one of these for your kids. So thank you.
Trustee Moore.
Can you clarify just one more time what kind of questions we were supposed to be asking? 'Cause
if you
there was
have
a difference and I
any
didn't catch that.
any questions regarding the ordinance itself or
Okay.
Sergeant Downing.
I guess I had a couple of thoughts in terms of licensing, but I don't know that I know exactly what I'm asking. For as far as the helmets, is there a consideration between bicycle helmets as appropriate or motorcycle helmets with full protective gear as part of the considerations?
There's not. In the statute I wrote, we wrote bicycle or approved motorcycle helmets.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Trustee Cannon.
Yes, thank you for everyone's questions there. I know that Colorado, the past couple of years, passed a law that says that bicyclists don't have to stop at intersections. The biggest concern I have, other than them riding through parks and open spaces, is scooters, e-bikes just whizzing through intersections, no stop signs, and sometimes no lights, no helmets, and they're doing 25, 28 miles per hour, zoom right through us. Sometimes not even looking. Was there any consideration with language that might be applied toward obeying the traffic laws of, stops at intersections, that kind of stuff?
Yes, in the ordinance does state they need to follow the rules of the road. So that's a very broad term, right? And it does include and entail all the things that bicyclists are expected to do. Our guidance for kids is, even on bicycles, you need to stop at stop signs because you don't have the experience that an adult bicyclist has. The enforcement of that is difficult because Colorado law doesn't stipulate that for inches.
And that was my follow-up question. What about the conflict between Colorado state law and an ordinance that says you follow the rules of the law, and meanwhile the state of Colorado says, no, you don't have a bicycle, don't worry about it.
So ordinances, municipalities can be more strict. They can't be more loose than state. So if you wish to include that, after deliberation, we can look at reviewing that. However, as the ordinance is written, that's not included beyond following the rules of the road.
Thank you.
Trustee Moyer.
Yeah, I think to the same respect, I had several concerns when looking at this, and one was the maximum wattage allowed, which basically allows a child to operate a moped within town limits with no restrictions on where or having to have a license. Our state statutes, if we go by them, create those certain parameters, but I think that we really need to consider what our community has been commenting on and complaining about, and that's public spaces, and that's the volume at which these vehicles are going through their communities. And I know for a fact that I have a connection to some underage scooter drivers who may be great drivers, but they are not 16 and they have no license. And whether they get from point A to B in one piece is not the question. It's whether or not that is actually fair to all of our drivers on the road that have to now be that much more aware to make sure they don't encounter a child on the street. And so my concerns are for all of our children. A, are we being restrictive enough so that we're not setting them up for failure? B, how can we minimize the most risk to them physically? Because we just saw what happens when a child goes through the back of a van, you know? And then we all know that they're defiant. And so to say, wear a helmet, do this, do that, without some fine or consequence, without saying, you know, these are actually the rules that you have to operate within. Like, I'm sorry, I got 4 and I'm not confident that that would work for them. And I'm a pretty strong mom. They may roller skate in the house, but I mean, let's be real. They don't wear helmets when we tell them to. Adults don't wear helmets when we tell them to. So how can we make sure that we are absolutely doing the most within this to protect their bodies that we can? Like, that's what I'm concerned about. And I think speed limits and wattage limits, like, those are the things that speak to me after like being educated by other people.
Yeah, if I may, it is addressed in the ordinance, the wattage limits. Above 4476 watts, that is considered a low-powered scooter, which is a moped. Anything below that is not considered a moped. So that's where we defer to the state on that. So below 4476 is not a moped, and it's considered another vehicle. Motorized gas-powered scooters are considered a nuisance under the town statute, and those are not allowed. And anything else, I feel that has been addressed. We've addressed what I feel we can in a reasonable amount. And any violations of this, no wearing a helmet, not obeying the rules of the road, not being kind around pedestrians, that can all be a violation of this ordinance.
Thank you. We're going to only accept questions at this point. Do you have another question or something for deliberation? Okay, let's hear from the public. Is there any public comment on this topic? I'm not sure if that's why you're here. Okay, so there's no public comment. So we have now had the opportunity to hear from the public. We have in the past. Hopefully we kind of remember that feedback, but now is the time for deliberation. So what we're doing in deliberation is saying, do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Do you have concerns? Do you have recommendations? This is where your opinion matters now. So if you feel very passionate about it, let's explain those incredibly concisely, just so we can hear from everyone. And then we can decide how we're going to move forward. Okay, so Trustee Moore. I feel like you are holding back because you have some opinions, not just questions. Please.
Correct. I have some concerns in regards to the human brain development of these children that we're allowing to be on our streets without restriction. I think this is a great start. I think we are addressing something that is, you know, at our doorstep that requires our attention. But I do think that we're being quite lenient in terms of accountability to the parents of those children and all the other children that are in vicinity of those e-bikes that are, you know, running around. My thoughts were, if we have the rules and regulations for adults to be able to operate a motorized vehicle or a vehicle in terms of licensing, taking a test, having time behind with an adult supervisor, having a registered vehicle that can be tracked down and accounted for, why would we not do something similar to our kids that have, you know, these brand new shiny toys that they're all very excited to use? My opinion might not be the loudest voice in the room, but that's my thoughts. And in terms of helmets, I'm concerned that a bicycle helmet is simply not enough of a protection when we're talking about vehicles that are not being pedaled by your feet. I think inherently the impact is a lot more dangerous. The catastrophic injuries that you are seeing already across the board are a lot more scary. To consider a motorcycle helmet as the appropriate gear to allow, and to say that, you know, a child doesn't wear a helmet, but you're going to be able to tell a lot more if they're not wearing a full gear. Those are my thoughts. I have concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Okay, Trustee Blackstone.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately this is a good first step. And I support kind of how this is laid out right now. I especially support the amendment that was proposed, specifically talking about the impact in the parks and open spaces and things. And I think, you know, when we were talking to the parks, the pros department, they had even mentioned that like there could be some designated spaces within that, which I think is great. You know, kind of try to push them and funnel them into that area. I would also tend to agree with Trustee Moore that, especially as you put it, if you're a bicycle helmet is meant for pedaling with your feet. Now, granted, you know, adult professional can get up to, you know, some pretty high speeds. But I think that is, you made I think a really solid point as far as like, if a, you know, 8-year-old kid who is even potentially borrowing their older siblings, you know, a little bit faster, you know, e-bike or whatnot, and they're maybe not as comfortable and they are going into traffic or something like that. Like I tend to agree with your idea of the needing a better helmet. So that was one thing. The other thing I kind of thought, just here last minute, and I don't know if this language or if this is something to kind of add on later or other discussion, is some sort of registration type deal. That way, you know, if one of these bikes is left in, you know, a place or stolen, or, you know, just again for that accountability portion, if there was some sort of required registration within the town, I don't know what that would look like. But I feel like that's something, I mean, you know, when I went to CSU, that's what we had to do with our bicycles. Again, because people would leave them. And I can just picture, you know, again, somebody got one stolen or left it in a ditch because it broke down and they didn't care. Now you have a battery that is, you know, kind of sitting in the sun in the middle of some, I could see that being a thing. So that would be something else we may want to consider with this ordinance, or again with a future. I still stand, especially with this amendment. I think this is a really good step in the right direction of just getting something on paper, and then if we wanted to at a later date come back and add, you know, a separate ordinance or make a change to this one, I'd be fine with that as well. After we talked about it some more, but as this stands with the amendment, I would be for it.
Okay, Trustee Moyer.
Same. I think we need to protect those spaces that people are absolutely concerned about. Those are the most prominent complaints that we have. I also feel that in the future, if we were to look at amending this, we should absolutely look at the wattage and the maximum speed. But I think one thing that would be really helpful with this is just a fine. Like the parents know if their kid is caught doing something to this level, like what is that consequence? Because it's so ambiguous as written now without the state statute being completely attached to it, and them reading that on top of it. Nobody's going to go to that level. So what does this mean exactly for us? I just don't want anybody to get hurt this summer.
Agreed. Trustee Cannon.
Thank you. I just ordered 2 e-bikes online.
While we're talking,
No. I did that yesterday while they were $200 off. When I was little, I rode bikes. I had accidents. Bad accidents, just when you're young, you're just stupid. You're fearless. You're just out there with your friends, just showing off or whatever. I've also lived all over North America, and I've seen different communities and different countries actually do things like permitting. I think, Aaron, you were talking about that. Trustee Blackstone, you were talking about that briefly, about a permitting system where you just get a little decal and you can slap it on there. That at least when you do that, you're given, kind of the rules of the road. And in some places, in some kind of vehicles, like boating, for example, you actually had to pass a test, But I think this is a good start. I think it'd be important for us to go ahead and put this on the books, the way the ordinance is written with the amendment. But then we can take some time to explore maybe some of those other options that all of you are bringing up. And I appreciate all your comments, because I've actually hit a kid on a bike, on a bicycle, not an e-bike. More like he hit me. I mean, I came to a complete stop. The kid was 9 years old. And next thing I knew, he just smacked in the front of me. He was okay. His bicycle was okay, and his parents were right there, and I walked him home. But it's traumatizing, to go through something like that. And just in the past 3 months, there's probably been 4 or 5 times me traveling home through the subdivisions right in front of me, and I'm hitting the brakes and such like that. So I think there's more work that we can be done. And our number one job is always going to be public safety. That's our number one responsibility. It's the number one responsibility of government. I don't want to be overly restrictive on families. I don't want to take over the job of a parent, and I don't think government should do that job. But I think putting effective ordinances in place to increase public safety is our responsibility. It's our direct responsibility. So I would be in favor of, passing the ordinance with the amendment, and then maybe asking for a little bit more work on possibly a permitting system, or maybe some education, some handouts. Because how are we going to get this information out to the public? We can pass this ordinance tonight. 30 days it goes into effect, but how do we know that they're getting this information? How do we know they know that we've come up with trying to shape some safeguards, about public safety? Because this past Christmas, I guess e-bikes was the number one gift, and because I had to buy my own. Anyway, but that's all my comments. Thank you so much, and
Wow.
thank you for putting this together.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think the ordinance in front of us is an extremely good spot to start on this, and I think it is important that I think we get this done this evening. This is a living document, so if we need to, go make modifications later on down the road, I think we can certainly do that. I do want to highlight a couple of concerns brought up by everybody, because I certainly have all the concerns I think brought up tonight have been valid, but I do want to highlight a couple things just because I suspect maybe some of these things have already been addressed, right? So Wellington has in fact adopted Colorado's model traffic code, right? So in the model traffic code, there's 3 different e-bike classifications. Class 1, which is pedal assist only, max speed of 20. Class 2, throttle assisted, max speed of 20. And Class 3, pedal assist only, max speed of 28, requires a mounted speedometer. Now, obviously, for those other 2 classes, Sergeant Downing, obviously, you've already highlighted the concern about how difficult it can be to enforce that if there are not speedometers. But I did want to point out those classifications just so that everybody's aware of those, because those are codified by the state of Colorado. To include with that, no person 16 years old, no person under 16 years old may operate a Class 3 e-bike, right? So that's those ones that go up to 28. And one of the things that Trustee Cannon had also brought up, under the safety stop law, riders 16 and older can treat stop signs as yield signs. So anybody that's 16 and under still has to stop at a stop sign per state law. So I just wanted to highlight those before we add a whole bunch of things into an ordinance that might already be included under state law.
So I do want to note that I understand families' inclination to make sure that your kids have opportunities to go outside and engage with their peers. It's important, and I understand that e-bikes makes that more accessible. I do not want to discourage that, honestly, because I do think it's great for kids to learn how to harness these things at a young age so that when they are in charge of a motorized vehicle, when they become an adult, they're more well equipped, actually. So I do think there are, obviously the safety concerns we have, but I do think that it's not entirely careless of parents for them to, encourage this growth in their children. So I just want to emphasize that there is a major responsibility that comes with that should come with the lesson that we're teaching our children when they are being given these gifts. But I think I'm glad that we're going in this direction where we're trying to address the safety, but we're not doing an all out ban and being too restrictive, because we could be taking away some opportunities for kids to grow with these as well. So, stay safe, everyone, please.
I'm so worried we're going to see a really, really bad situation this summer. And it's not just here, it's everywhere across the country. This is a problem. But again, our number one priority is this group is public safety, as Trustee Cannon mentioned. And that is absolutely, what we are responsible for maintaining. What we're not responsible for is parenting other people's children. That's not our jobs. So, I want to be super clear on that, but also as Sergeant Downing mentioned, this isn't only just about safety, it's also about courtesy and respect, making it known what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, making it very clear, and letting also, kids who are out and about know that there are consequences for being disrespectful, not courteous, and destructive. Not to mention not being safe. There's obviously lots of other consequences to not being safe, but our hope that the most they would ever experience is a fine. We just looked at a map of our roads regarding bicycle safety, and there are so many that would only be recommended to cycling enthusiasts and expert riders, or those who feel incredibly confident. I can't remember the phrase, but it was kind of fearless riders. So speaking of adults who are expert bike riders, right? Adults, that most of our major roads are not suitable for riding bikes by children at all. Not at all. So obviously we're working on that. That takes time. So the safety concern is a really big deal. I do like the idea of under 16 have to stop at stop signs. If that's part of state law, that's part of state law. So I would hope that we are actively enforcing that as well, because that you could just sit at Centennial Park and give out 100 tickets a day if you wanted to. That's where I see it. And that's where I almost hit people all the time in the dark with no lights. So I'm really glad that we've acknowledged that. Kiwanis does an amazing bike rodeo that's really poorly attended on yearly. They give out free helmets, safety courses. They actually had a drawing for a free e-bike that had to be won by an adult. But they did have an e-bike that was part of the drawing. So I hope they do that again this year. And then I'll definitely encourage people to attend, because safety lessons and understanding is important. I think that's pretty default as a parent. Like, you should encourage your kids to be safe, but sometimes additional resources are great. Signage is going to be necessary. We may, start getting more revenue based on this, based on citations that and fees that we might impose, in which case we could pay for additional resources and signage saying what is and is not against the law per our ordinances. And then also maybe consider, as we did before, designated areas that it is appropriate. So go have fun here. Again, at your own risk and do follow the rules, but so I hope that we pursue that in the future. I know the registration process requires a lot of manpower, requires a lot of resources. So I think we could look into that if anybody was around for low speed other vehicles like golf carts. That was paralyzing. It would not be possible from an administrative standpoint for us to maintain, not to mention bikes for kids. So I just want us to keep that in mind as we're moving forward next. I don't think, I personally do not want to put staff time into researching bicycle registration processes, knowing that we do not have that's not how I would prefer administrative uses to be used. But bikes are going to get stolen. Yet another consequence. It's crazy. So let's lock them up. And then those were the other things. My bike has an app and I maximize the speed on it. So I don't allow it to go over a certain speed. I also encourage my kids to not let their friends ride their bikes because they just don't understand how the e-bikes work. So they would have no idea that they're flying at whatever speeds. So I encourage other people to do the same. But in the meantime, I just really hope that parents parent their kids well and that we are known as a small town loving community. And that involves how you approach the road. So if you are driving in your own neighborhood and running down kids in the street, you're not being a good neighbor. And that's not Wellington's known for. So be safe, be kind, be brilliant. That's what's really important to do here. So given what we've discussed and kind of the consensus I've heard, I might entertain a motion to approve this ordinance with the amendment as given and introduced by Mayor Pro Tem. Would you be willing to make that motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 05-2026 with the following amendments. The amendment being the one presented by Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Is there a second?
I second.
Roll call, please.
No.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Yes.
Mary, that motion does pass.
And before we move forward, so I've been talking to Larimer County Sheriff's Office in case this ordinance passed. So working with them on messaging and how we get the information out to our residents, to our students, to the kids, to the community as a whole. So they have created a timeline. I just had it up. So with the ordinance being adopted tonight, it becomes law within 30 days. After publication. So it becomes law June 29th, but we'll start social media posts probably starting around June 1st, which will come from LCSO and from the town of Wellington. We'll go to community events. LCSO will be at community events where they can also present that information. We'll also work with the SRO for when school starts to get the information out and educational opportunities, things like that. So we know this will be new, and like the sergeant mentioned, that education is that first part and the first in the warning piece. So our municipal judge has been aware of this process, and so understands that it's probably very soon there will be items on her docket related to this. But just trying to make sure we have all of our checks and balances taken care of. And I appreciate your time and your thoughtful dialogue about this. I mean, this was trying to find that even place of not banning and still allowing, knowing parents have to parent and kids have to do their things. And So I thank you, and we'll continue working on this. We'll get this portion passed, and then we'll start talking about what those other items are that you want to address in the ordinance.
Great.
So thank you.
Prost has been considering or looking at some really clear signage as well. So they may ask for some support for that in the future. But there's some great examples from Fort Collins I just shared to Patty, and that the Prost group has been moving around. So more to come, I'm sure. So that's great. Thank you guys for the conversation.
I love what you brought up last meeting about the parks that Boulder and other municipalities have for these
Yeah.
specific vehicles. So as our Prost and activity champion,
Yeah.
I would love to explore those in
Yeah.
the coming years.
Take a look at the Berthoud Park. They have a bunch of trail and routes. They're not designed for anything, but they are very cool. So check out the Berthoud bike trails. Bike. I can't remember what it's. You can Google it. You'll find it. Okay. Oh, may I hear Clerk the title of E2?
Ordinance number 06-2026, amending chapter 6 of the Wellington Municipal Code concerning business licensing.
Great. Hannah Hill, Town Clerk, will present this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I'm Hannah Hill, Town Clerk. Tonight, we have proposed some changes for you to the municipal code in chapter 6, article 2. As most of you may know, in 2024, the town updated the code related to business licensing regulations. Since then, improvements have been made, including new application forms and implementation of an online licensing system. Over the past year, we have received feedback from local businesses and event organizers requesting more flexibility in licensing. Specifically, we've noted a need to better accommodate temporary and event-based business operations. Staff has reviewed the current business licensing framework, and we've identified areas where clarity and efficiency could be improved. The proposed ordinance amends Chapter 6, Article 2 of the Municipal Code by introducing clearer definitions and new license types. These updates distinguish between traditional physical location businesses, mobile vendors, and temporary or special event vendors. The goal of these changes is to better align licensing requirements with how businesses are operating today while still maintaining consistent standards across all categories. Additionally, the updates aim to support fair application of regulations, protect public health and safety, and ensure consistent collection of sales tax for the town. You will see in the red line version of the ordinance in your packet that we've also updated the code to be consistent with other more recently updated portions of the code, such as including a more robust purpose section and definitions being called out, which is consistent with other municipalities in their business licensing codes. Other areas that are proposed to be changed generally include more administrative items to fit current operations of the licensing process. Overall, ordinance number 6-2026 is designed to address these issues, improve administrative efficiency, and ensure equitable treatment of all businesses operating, and allow the vendors of our special events the flexibility they need while allowing the town the ability to collect the required information. I don't have a longer presentation, but I am happy to address any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions for our clerk?
Does this licensing include the food trucks that sit in front of the bars and restaurants that we currently have?
Yes, they would fall under the new mobile vendor licensing. So if they're in town just for a special event, they would fall under the special event category and just comply with that. But if they're in here or in town weekly or more of a, I don't want to say permanent structure, but more of a consistent basis, then they would need a mobile vendor license, yes, or a vendor license.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the things that keeps coming up that people forward to me is some of the food trucks, for example, are not reporting sales taxes to the state that they were collected here in Wellington. I don't have the name of it, but one food truck, for example, that the last one that they told me about was at a Broomfield, and they're coming up here selling doing their business here, and Broomfield's getting all the sales taxes. So that's the biggest concern I have about that. How you go about the administrative part about licensing isn't that important to me, but what is important is, and I know it's almost hard to address this, is how do we ensure that they're reporting sales taxes correctly?
I mean, that's a great question, not necessarily related to the topic at hand, but I think that is absolutely one. I think having a better idea of exactly who's operating and doing business in Wellington will help us to follow up on those things. So let's take that as a follow-up regarding sales tax, just because it's not related to this ordinance.
I agree. But in the same vein, I think always we want to figure out how we're good partners. And our farmers market was more successful, I think, last year than ever before because we were able to offer more vendors than ever before. And so I think we always need to look at what is that line between how we can capture, of course, our sales tax for our people, but also the best quality of life for our community, which is offering all of these services through this farmers market. And how do we make that easy for people to say yes? Like, how can we make it easy for them to say yes? How can we say yes in the best way possible? And so I think that's like a tension that we're going to have to manage, unfortunately, Clerk Hannah. But I think you can do it. And I think as a town, we can prove that we are really welcoming and the best partners ever because we have people that are hungry for community. So I just want us to always keep that in mind.
Sure, thank you. And I apologize, Trustee Cannon. I heard a statement, not a question. So I did make a note of that. What I will say is the goal of this ordinance is to make it easier for our special event vendors who are coming in more sporadically, may only be here for 4 hours at a time. The vendor licensing is new. And what I will say about that is, yes, staff absolutely agrees. We do have other updates coming related to this section of the code, not necessarily business licensing, but what I would say that we're due is look into that a little bit deeper. And as we operate under this proposed amended code, if we see areas where we could improve specifically related to food trucks, that would come back at that time, at a later time with the other proposed amendments.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Now that I'm thinking about it, first off, I would say I appreciate you guys doing this and making it easier for vendors to come into town, especially as we've talked about, having more events and things like that. I think this just aligns with what we've all been talking about since I've been on the board. What I just kind of thought about and realized is you kind of mentioned that your team is potentially going to take on a little bit more work as far as dealing with these kind of more impromptu and special occasion permits and stuff. Just so I know, and I think we all kind of keep a running track because we continue to ask staff, hey, can you also do this? Can you also, as I brought up, like registration for bikes, and as the mayor brought up, like, hey, that's another administrative task. Is this adding to your plate now? And like, is that, a fairly easy one? Is this a heavy load that we're now kind of expecting of you guys? Is there just some sort of pressure gauge on the impact on you guys? Because I would like to at least have a running tally in my brain of every time we ask you guys to do more stuff, if that makes sense.
Sure, I appreciate that. What I will say is that the clerk's department, or myself as the clerk, has a really amazing team. Cody Bird, Mr. Bird behind me, his team does all of the current business licensing process. So they've taken that on, and that's not an administrative burden for my department or me. I would defer to him for if it's how big of a administrative burden it is for him. And then the special event vendor licensing, that will be taken on probably a little bit heavier in the administrative area for our special events team and Caitlin Morris. So they are working out a process for how it will work with them. She works directly with the special event organizers. And so I think they are creating a process that will allow an ease of communication and a one point person since they're already working with her. So for myself, no, we're spreading it around a little bit more. What I will also say is if the board directs us to do something, especially the town clerk's office, we will get it done.
I guess I would just ask that you keep us apprised, especially as we're going into this. If you see that it is, a lot, just, again, that's something that I want to know, that what we're asking you guys to do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is there any comments from the public? Okay. Look at him every time. Now he's answering me. Yeah. It's like, why are you? What I really appreciate about this initiative is this is bred out of complete feedback to us about our licensing process and specific scenarios that we face and how we can better cater them, yet still be accountable to business licensing. So, which obviously is going to help us to collect sales tax and do all those things additionally. So I do appreciate the efforts in doing this and bringing it before us. Are there any final comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Ordinance 06-2026, amending Chapter 6 of the Wellington Municipal Code concerning business licensing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you much. On to reports from our town attorney, Mr. Rubin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm filling in for Mr. Coomley tonight, who, because the Memorial Day holiday had a conflict, I have nothing major to report on behalf of the town attorney.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia.
No report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff communications are in the packet. Are there any questions regarding the Board of Trustees planning calendar, Larimer County Sheriff Office, April 2026 report, the Treasurer's report, report of expenses, or the utilities report? All available to the public in our packet. None. Are there any board reports? Let's start with Blackstone and go around.
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me.
Just to recap, I just came back from San Gabriel Valley in California for their fire recovery. And Altadena was a community that was one of the first places in California that was not redlined for individuals to be able to purchase property. And they lost 6,000 plus structures in the fire there. I'm blessed to be able to do this work. It's sad also to go into these communities and see what has happened, but it also makes me hopeful for us as a community as we work on our emergency management plan, that we will be in a better spot to be able to handle these things as they inevitably come our way. And so while I hate being away from here physically, I am so grateful to be able to bring that knowledge back to our community. And I'm also very grateful to you, my colleagues, for understanding that and giving me that grace. It only makes us stronger, I promise. And I'm just so grateful for Wellington. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, I think some of us have seen the news here that Harvest Farm will be shutting down in Wellington. That's a pretty big hit for the community, especially for those group of folks that are going through recovery and the recovery process. I do have the Larimer County Opioid Abatement Council meeting this Thursday, so I will update the board in regard to we had some grant approvals that we had sent their way. So some of those are kind of in question at the moment. And I will get back to the board on the outcomes of those next week.
Thank you so much.
Nothing.
Trustee Cannon.
Thank you. This past Saturday, the American Legion, Girl Scouts troop, and Scouts America met at the Wellington Cemetery. We did a cleanup. We also placed flags on the graves of veterans. And then yesterday morning, we had a very touching ceremony. It was very brief, about 15 minutes long. Mayor Daley was there too, as well, where we honored those veterans, and took a time to remember them. So if you ever get a chance next year, make plans to attend. Memorial Day, it's a good way to just get out and appreciate your country a little bit more and the people who fought for it. This Thursday, there's the Vita groundbreaking at 10:30 that I'll be attending. I don't know if any other trustees plan on attending that. Okay, good. And then Thursday night at 5 o'clock is the CML District 2 meeting at the Erie Community Center. Next week, we don't have a board meeting, but on June the 4th, even though we are not a member of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, I will be attending that meeting, begin to make some connections to start the groundwork for us to transition from the Transportation Planning Region, TPR, and move into the MPO. This will give us more opportunities. It also help us to plan locally for transportation needs. I appreciated the report given tonight about the Transportation Mobility Plan. I can't wait to see the draft and the final product on that, because as we move forward, that kind of information will be very critical for the town at these meetings. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Congratulations to the Wellington High School graduating class of 2026. This might be an offensive way to say it, but our number 2 graduation of modern era Wellington High School. Hopefully that wasn't a mean thing to say. I know Wellington High School has been around for a long time, but in our current state and current school, second graduating class. So very exciting news. Last week we celebrated Kids to Park Day, which is a national event. So I appreciate the Parks and Rec staff for putting that on and the pros volunteers. I did want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day. I remember special people in my family on Memorial Day, and I did appreciate celebrating with our local Legion, American Legion as well. So that was wonderful to see. And I hope everybody had a restful and memorable Memorial Day. The splash pad is open. Congratulations, everyone. That is a very temperamental almost or a difficult amenity to support. I just want everyone to know that. So it's kind of like a on-call, always know what's going on with the splash pad kind of situation. So if anybody were to face some kind of issue with the splash pad, just give the town a call for Parks and Rec, and they will take a look at it. It is as simple as that. We unfortunately do not monitor Facebook all the time. So if you do actually have a concern about an amenity in the town of Wellington, give us a call. We would love to help and fix it. But unfortunately, we don't have time to watch Facebook all day, so we don't monitor that to see if there's any outages. Kind of like if there's crimes occurring, call the police department, call the sheriff's office. Don't put it on Facebook. And or maybe both, but definitely first call the correct, appropriate people. I wanted to thank the Wellington Main Streets program for their second year of their Walk of Fame. You may have noticed the individualized, yes.
It's so good.
I know. A flag made for every single graduating senior with their name and or picture on it if they chose to do so, and our entire town celebrating them and inviting them to Main Street, and then sending those home so that we can wear our Eagle Pride at home in our yards as well. So thank you for them for doing that, all their sponsors and the folks who do all the graphic design to create every single flag. And I think those are all my updates. Yes, please.
So today, the eighth graders graduated from Wellington Middle High School, and they will be the first group to actually go through all 4 years at the high school and build that culture. So I just want to say, build it right
Oh,
for
so
those kids.
that was the last thing I had to say is I don't know about elementary school kids because I don't have any of those age anymore. But tomorrow is the last day of school for middle school. Today was the last day for my high schooler. So we talked about a lot of safety, but there's going to be kids everywhere on all the streets. I hope so. I want them to be out and about. I mean, I kick my kids out of the house at a certain time every day. So I hope they're riding their e-bikes around. So just be careful. Go slower, extra looks. We got all of our kids loose on the town right now. So starting tomorrow. So just let's be the good Wellington that we love. Okay. All right, so that is it for board reports. For the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators pursuant to 246402 CRS, and for the purpose of receiving legal advice pursuant to 244402 B CRS regarding transaction of real property for the use by Colorado State University for agricultural well water rights as required by CRS 244402 D.52A and 2E. The executive session proceedings will be electronically recorded and the record will be preserved for 90 days through August 24th, 2026, except for those matters heard pursuant to 246402 4B, which shall be recorded as they are attorney-client privileged. Which shall not be recorded as they are attorney-client privileged. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. For the public, the board is now entering the executive session. Members of the public in person will be asked to leave, and the Zoom meeting will end for all users. We'll take a brief recess as we transition over.